You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This show is dedicated to those who live and love from the heart in infinite ways. In today's episode, we will discuss, share, gain insights, and get clarity on the wisdom and teachings of the mystic and seer Almin, as well as discover more about the miraculous healing modality called Belvaspata. Your host for this show is Paul.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, South Africa. Hello, world. Welcome to another edition of Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This is your host, Paul, speaking, and I am joined in the sound room with Nico. He is telling us that the system is jamming already. We don't know why these technical things happen, but just please be forewarned in case we just get cut off and you're just going to get what you are going to get tonight, just the time frames that we are given. But hopefully we spread an hour ahead of us and we spend some time together as a light family. Thank you very much for joining us. Mostly South Africans join us here at 8 p.m. on Thursday night, and then the rest of the world then listens on the podcast version of our show. Listen to what is going on in the world, our realities, so much shifting and altering as we go through our day-by-day issues and processes. So much controversy, so much life that is paradoxical in nature, people holding on to their perspectives of truth as valid reasons for behavior, refusing to let go of those processes along the way. Absolutely unable to make changes on so many different levels, and yet life is constantly unfolding. So just before we started the show, I had this big realization and I want to share it with you. So just think about this as Paul wisdom or whatever wisdom works for you there. But for me, reality is like an unfolding realization that continuously expands and contracts. I'm repeating, reality is like one unfolding realization that continuously expands and contracts. Isn't that just mind-blowing? Anyway, it is for me, so I'm just sharing my realizations, and that's all I can do week to week is really give my insights, give my perception, my perspective over things, just work with you day by day through the week as it goes on. And what a week we have had. So many different things are happening. Tonight's show, Death Doesn't Become Her, and we're going to go into some detail about the seer Almin actually had her heart stopped in order to test a particular process that she's experiencing. But listen to what Malui of Divine Gateways had to post yesterday or today. She says, a quote here by James Allen: "The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs." She says we are destined for greatness. The extent to which we get to solidify our potential into our everyday experience depends largely on our own ability to recognize what is available. This is not a mental process, but a joined effort of the body, heart, and mind. Appreciation and awareness of the poetry of life is a most powerful tool because it connects you with the deeper qualities of the soul. This, in turn, lets the neutrinos flow faster through your heart, thus creating a reality of beauty around and within you. Absolutely magnificent. Thank you, Malui, for posting that, and thank you that I've had the opportunity then to use it as an introduction for tonight's show entitled Death Doesn't Become Her. Tonight's show is really all about moving beyond the duality of life and death, moving into a life of high magic, looking at all these beautiful processes that are so absolutely incredibly going on, and yet day to day you and I are trying to live our lives to the very highest potential that we can. But the onslaught is definitely there, the challenges are definitely there, and it's all the time we have to see the biggest picture we possibly can and expand into it. Otherwise we get trapped in the paradox and the controversy of everything else that goes on. Our beautiful Grandmaster Diane is now going to deliver an audio that she has prepared for us. We haven't played this audios for 2 weeks, as we've had some other technical issues going on here and there. But this one's the Principles of Hope, number 11 and 13. And what perfect timing we have as we go into that.
Greetings to all our viewers out there. Greetings to Paul and to Nick. We continue with our Principles of Hope, and tonight we look at Principles 11, 12 and 13. 11 speaks of holding the vision through emotional self-sovereignty. When we do not hold that vision, when we forego our realness, when we tap into our person, the role that we play, then we appease illusion. The mind's trickery has overcome and we abandon our emotional self-sovereignty to that chaotic swaying to and fro of the tutorial movement, holding the vision of the one and the many, holding the vision of being inseparable from the one life. In that holding, we remember our boundlessness. When we remember that life is more than just the physical, life is more than just the mind, then the vision becomes sustainable. Let us scan our lives and see where those ties that bind us to the emotional state of others are strong. Let us cut those cords so that we become impervious to the moods and illusions of others. As we shine the light now on the Principle of Hope 12, we read that shaping the quality of the day through self-determined attitudes is possible. Through attitude rather than force, the master shapes his or her reality. When we are enveloped in praise, love and gratitude, then the rivers of grace are opened and all the fields benefit. They turn green and fertile as this river brings blessings, as it turns the mundane into magic. Such is the power of attitude. These messages of intent are broadcast within and without, allowing the fragrance of grace to shape the quality of every moment. Such is the power of attitude. This attitude accepts that we are the cause, we are responsible. The ability to respond is responsibility, and it allows a multitude of choices, all of which allows us to be the vessel for and of a glorious existence in which the infinite intent flows through us. So we've spoken briefly of 11, holding the vision through emotional self-sovereignty. Number 12, of shaping the quality of the day through self-determined attitudes. And then it almost naturally flows into number 13, which is unshakable faith in the indestructible, ever-renewed perfection of unfolding life. This unshakable faith takes root in holding and beholding everything in aware appreciation. Even those detours are valued. Even those obstacles along the way are valued. So along any path, any gem can be gathered. Let us never assume that we know a thing or a being based on past experience. We cannot navigate the ocean based on a photograph of a wave taken months before. The infinite is in ever new expression. No part of creation is ever left out of this newness. It only remains hidden or concealed by belief systems, by expectations, by assumptions. The less encumbered we are by belief systems, by our personal identities, the more boundless is the moment. And so tonight, let us lay down the need for fixed outcomes and for proof. Let us look at stagnant areas in our lives, at silent agreements and unspoken agendas. Let us release them now and be open to each and ever new moment, allowing glad expectation to blossom, unattached to anything. Good night, all.
We're back in studio, Radio Belvaspatar South Africa's episode for the 5th of October 2017, entitled Death Doesn't Become Her. There the Master Diane was giving her insights and perspectives on Principles of Hope number 11 and 13. And next week we hope to bring you number 14 to 16 to complete the series of work and audios that she has prepared for us. Another member of our Light family posted up on Facebook this incredible, in-the-moment insight, I think is the word I'm looking for. She says, you want a desired outcome to happen in the future. However, when you study the laws of metaphysics, you realize that the future is a continuum of this present moment. It dawns upon you that the quality of the future is determined by the quality of this present moment. What determines the quality of this present moment? Well, your attitude. What you focus on grows. So if you are truly and deeply grateful for all that you have in this moment, this is what will grow. If, on the other hand, your focus is on what you lack, this is then what you get more of, lack. The practice of gratitude helps you to transform the stumbling blocks in your life into stepping stones, which enables you to transcend your current experience and live life at a much higher level of awareness and consciousness. This is no easy feat and requires you to become a spiritual warrior who has the discipline and perseverance to make this your daily practice, even when life is deeply challenging you to despair and give up. In fact, your discipline is born from transcending your experiences of deep despair. Let them be your catalyst. Isn't that magnificently said and written? I really had to just share that with everybody. And thank you to our Light family for posting everything I'm watching, combining, putting it all together, and it just becomes each week's show. And we know that we're all just stepping into the state of absolute oneness as we just share from the absolute heart. In a little while, we're going to talk as well, get audios here from the Seer Almin and go into absolutely what death is about and removal of our processes from duality. But I thought it would be good if we could just step back just a little bit and go back to, let's say, the beginning of the process. And it's the fall, how the dream began, the thought that fractured the infinite. It's part 1. It was a revealing series that Almin gave to us. And here she discusses the infinite before the dream and how the dream began, the birth of illusion, space, and linear time, and how the formation of the flower of life spheres came into being. And I just want to put this right up front in our audio recordings tonight as we listen to them, and there's a few more as Almin will develop this whole particular process. Amazing how it all comes together. It's a bit of a long track, but I'll see you on the other side of that.
Existed prior to the dream. It had no form. It was formless, but think of it in terms of layers of paper, one on top of each other, and it ends up making a book. Layers of it existed. The mental electrical layer was present at the same time that the feminine emotional layer was present. But it was present in the form of a divine hermaphrodite. meaning that both portions exist like leaves on a tree or like pages in a book. However, they were not unified into one. So, some trauma existed. I have come up with some questions as to what happened, that questions were asked and the answer produced a contradiction, or the question produced a contradiction. But I would imagine that it happened in stages. So, in other words, within the dream, a traumatic event occurred, such a question was asked. It occurred again, another splitting took place, because another question was asked. So which exactly was the question that happened outside of the dream as the first question? I am not entirely sure, but there was a question. And the question was, is this life-enhancing? Something new or something was tried that hadn't been tried before, and the question was, is this life-enhancing? And what happened as a result is a total contradiction. Only that which is life-enhancing can, in fact, exist within the being of the infinite. The question is unanswerable because it is an impossibility. Within the infinite before that time, never had an impossibility existed. And so, trauma happened. The trauma that happened was an incredible contraction of the part of the infinite's being that asked the question, the mind, the electrical component. So the masculine contracted, pulling with it the feminine, and created a ball so dense that for the first time something existed within the infinite's being the way a tumor would exist inside our bodies. Something dense enough that it could cast a shadow, and that light, instead of moving through it, would in fact bounce back. A ball of mirrors were created, and the feminine components, possibly not all but certainly some, were trapped in the middle of it. This ball, with its feminine components, constituted, if we think of the infinite as a very vast, grand computer, it constituted 1/3 of that computer's capacity. The other 2/3 from the splitting went into something frozen. If you introduce something into a computer that is foreign to it, it freezes. The other 2/3 were frozen, and the 1/3 that did function went into a deep sleep. And so the ball of mirrors, with the feminine captured still in formlessness within it, arose. A dream space was created. The feminine within it became its dream body, and the dream began. The infinite feminine must have been terrified, and it must have shattered its innocence. For the first time, the limitless being found itself confined, actually, in a prison of mirrors, a sphere of mirrors. The limitless was encased in the limited. A prison formed. We too are encased in prison bars many times. What are our prison bars made of? Our prison bars consist of limitations born of belief systems. The infinite feminine could at any time have expanded itself through the ball of mirrors, but not having encountered anything like that before, it saw only linear space. And let me explain how the linear space occurred. Formless, trapped within a ball of mirrors, the infinite did not understand in its feminine form what the mirrors were. It had no form to mirror to it, so it saw nothing. So it contracted and contracted as far away from that foreign something that had been introduced into its existence, which was merely its male, dense enough to reflect light. But it contracted until it was itself a sphere, a ball in the very middle of it. And as the ball in the middle of the sphere of mirrors, the infinite suddenly saw an image appear in the mirrors. It had a form. The mother created a first form, a sphere. And so the image, if you stand between two mirrors, my beloved light family, what you see are lines and lines and lines of images. And in a sphere of mirrors, well then, you see it in all directions. Again, the mother could not understand because a new thing had formed. Linear space. And she believed it to be real. How could she think otherwise? Had anything unreal ever existed? No. Therefore the image in front of it, which was a mirror image, was thought by the mother to be another her. And so illusion was born, because the mother believed that that which is unreal was real. When illusion was born and space was created, linear time was created as well. And linear time, as well as anything that is illusion, disturbs innocence. And so the innocence was shattered, and the sphere of light that had contracted to the middle of within this prison of mirrors was the mother. And there she shattered yet again as she went into an even deeper sleep. And as she shattered, the flower of life spheres were formed. One sphere surrounded by others, making a total, and surrounded by one, making a total of 20 spheres, 19 within the 20th. This is what occurred. The breaking up of her within created these spheres. The flower of life is actually a geometry born of trauma. It is separation-based. But it enabled something quite unique to be conceived of by the Infinite Mother. If her light was directed through one of those spheres, it made a very unique image in the mirror. If she directed it at another sphere, it made a different image. And so she got the understanding of individuated creations that she could make. How? By individuating pieces within her being. And as they are individuated within, so they become individuated without in the mirrors. And let's not forget that the mother did think that those mirrors were real. She had never before encountered anything unreal until that mirror was formed.
And there the Seer Almin was sharing with us the fall, how the dream began, the thought that fractured the infinite, and then also how individuated life was born for that. Great explanation and great moment of context for me as I listened to all of that. Almin said there that illusion disturbs innocence. I can see that. I can see so many people maintaining the status quo of their own perspective and their own realities and their own truth, and holding on to all of that, but because they can't really see to go beyond all of that. Really, really fascinating for me what I see going out of there. And people around me have this look of an animal that's sometimes captured and wants to get out of there, and there's so much fear in their responses that's going on. And I just think we're in the last part of the fall as everything begins to rework into a much higher state of magic. And that's, of course, the year that we are living in, is to live in a world and a heart of high magic. But can you see now what we are now healing and working from? How this dream all began. And as the dream dissolves around us, as we have to step into a new reality, we're experiencing so many different realities all at once. And not one of them is the actual truth, but it is just what we are experiencing right now at this moment. As I started off the show, I said to you that Nico is telling us that the system is freezing a lot at this moment, and he doesn't know why, but Almin said, in a big computer setup or program, if you introduce something foreign to it, it freezes. So now we know where we're going with all of that. Recently up on Almin Diary was a post about the cosmic mission statements, and very interestingly pertaining to the theme of our show tonight, the question that was posed to Almin: what was the overall mission statement of the three large stages within the reality of the subatomic particles? And Almin says it's to know the unknowable nature of existence. Another question came to her: then what is the mission statement of the reality of the immaculate white light? Almin says it's to explore the four paradoxes of the immaculate white light during this large stage's 4 phases. The first phase explores the paradox of, within the nature of the dream, all beings have always only existed in the present moment. Spot on with what Almin was saying in that old audio clip for many years ago. Remember that duality is the triad of linear change, of life, death, and ascension, all working together and trying to create oneness out of itself, but then, of course, oneness creates absolute chaos at the same time. If we look at, we're getting a peek at the back cover of Almin's newest book, which is coming out, The Book of High Magic, and that's really just a result of all of the years' work that all of us have done along with Almin. And it's about healing from the dream on a very deep level, because she says there that magic occurs when cause and effect become one. This happens when the eternal self awakens from the dream and in self-sovereign mastery becomes the creator of the quality of the never-ending journey. So what we're going to do now is we're going to repeat an audio that we played just a little while back on this radio show. It's how death was created. Also a bit of a longish track, but it really puts things into context. So please enjoy, and we'll chat more about that and Almin's death experience after this.
My beloved brothers and sisters, light family in the many countries, we are in different stages of resurrection, in different places and locations on the earth, but they are extremely advanced levels of spiritual evolution of the awareness. So awareness being that evolved, how is it possible that death frequencies can still be in the body? Because the golden light, with its tones of glad expectations, the equation for the golden light has an equation where you add up 144 tones of glad expectations. How is it possible that tones can replace frequencies of death? So mortality, death, these frequencies are still in bodies of very advanced masters. When the tones of glad expectations were forgotten, were not being lived, at that point there was a vacuum, so to speak, in the attitudes and emotions of all beings. And that gap gets filled by illusion. Whenever there is something that is natural to us, such as the tones of glad expectation, then When it's absent, it's like a wound where scar tissue forms. Scar tissue is not elastic, it's not pliable, it's not natural to the body. Well, the tones of death are not natural to the body. Death is a man-made illusion that was created by abandoning their inner space. So, for us to get rid of these death frequencies, we need to cultivate the tones of glad expectation. When we do, the golden light is birthed. Now, beloved ones, why are they still there at this late stage of the game of evolution? Part of the reason is that there are things putting them into our bodies. First of all, humanity was not originally designed, and we have body prototypes from which humanity was formed. So our teeth are not meat-eating teeth. Meat-eating teeth have some point to them so that they can tear flesh. We are eating meat when we are actually designed in our bodies to be herbivores, to eat plants and seeds and nuts and beans and fresh vegetables and fruits and so on. So putting the death frequencies of animal carcasses into our body is fine for many stages, but at this stage it causes problems. I do not tell you what to eat and what you don't eat, but I will tell you that I've had an amazing lot of messages for some of you when I do your healing oils of tell this person, this God being in the flesh, that it's time for them to become vegan. In some instances, there have been messages, time to become vegetarian. So that is one way death frequencies are put into the body by the foods we eat. Also, when we eat preservatives, when we eat chemicals in our food, we are actually eating fake food. Those are not foods. And death frequencies are fake frequencies. That's not our natural God-being frequencies. So that is another thing in our food that perpetuates the fake death frequencies. Now, what else? Death in our society has become almost a dance. When do we ever see a movie or a television program where death or things that cause death are not primary and in the foreground? Death has become entertainment, like it did for the old Romans. In a movie, oftentimes, the emotions of the viewers are swayed. Death to the bad guy. Let's save the good guy. These games with death also promote death frequencies. There are very few like you on earth. Beloved ones, you cannot live like humans and walk this journey into the white light of high magic. You are metamorphosing the very substance of life, the very building blocks at a subatomic level. You are leaving all that behind. There are some dramatic changes in our life necessary. The other thing that is around us is that everywhere we look, we are seeing old age, because those born right after the Second World War, known as the baby boomers, are the most numerous demographic group on earth. So if you're in a public place, the chances are that you're going to see many more elderly, decrepit, struggling to even walk people all around you. So the mirrors of your environment is saying, This is the natural state of affairs. For those of you that remember many years ago, when we started to do online courses, we did the course Secrets of Immortality. And immortality and incorruptibility was discussed at that time. These are side effects of getting rid of the scar tissue, of gloomy expectations, expecting the worst to happen in our life. And there were given 144 illusions, and insights were given to help banish these illusions. Those illusions are death frequencies, 144. This was named in our online course, Secrets of Immortality. Now, the tones of glad expectation, you can change the frequencies of death by putting in their stead tones of glad expectation, but there are those who do it better with insights. That course contained the insights that should replace the illusions, and it spells out quite clearly what those illusions were, all of them leading to limitation, decay, and death. I have asked Ella to give this workshop. We are at that point where it is extremely necessary. We have to make dramatic changes in our life for this dramatic shift in evolution.
And there we were listening to the Seer Almeen as she spoke with us and gave us her insights and understandings around how death really can be created and is brought into being just through our lifestyle, through the environment that we live in and what we are allowing. And she's saying there that the dramatic evolution needs to be allowed to happen, and we need to be perhaps strong enough to also work with all of that. Very interesting. Over the last few weeks, I've been having some chest pains. And so, just having to breathe a lot deeper and just work through all of those things, and then trying to decide whether it's stress or it's something else. But every time I have an issue on that particular level, something comes up within the teachings and within the structures of the journey with Almeen through our lives. And today came up the answer there. And what happened is she's given a recent post that says about my death experience. It came up yesterday. And it happened on Monday, October the 1st at 3:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in Oregon, where Almeen overcame the illusion of death and life. And she says, the Seer Almeen has said that if death is an illusion to overcome, so then must its opposite, which is life, be. Then after a whole week of preparation, Almeen gave permission for her heart to be stopped for several seconds. So several seconds may not be a lot in terms of an organ like the heart to be stopped, but I'm wondering about what happened in that particular time frame. And I cannot wait until those teachings come up or some experiences come up from Almeen. And of course, if she was experiencing that particular process over the last week, so were you. And so was I. And we need to think a little bit about those connections and how they develop and work on. Almeen has also let us know that this is the last week that she'll be giving a rune prediction. The runes remain a sacred tool of guidance in an uncharted existence that the evolution of life has led us to. She'll be sharing a weekly insight instead as we resume through the seer's eyes. Also some beautiful poetry coming up there for us. I can't wait for that. Have you noticed the shifts that are going on in social media, on Facebook, etc., through the Almeen connections and Almeen pages? And as all of that takes shape and new realities are formed and some people are leaving and new people are stepping in, absolutely incredible just watching all of it. And then just seeing where I am at within all of that process and just looking at that mirror of change and transformation around me. Really an ongoing process along the way. And then suddenly a pre-release has now come up, Belvaspata Aravespi Straunat, which is the Belvaspata for emotional healing, has now been released as a pre-release, now available. Remember 3 weeks ago, we had the release of the Belvaspata healing modality for healing of cancer. Very, very big and important things to look at all of that. So Belvaspata Aravespi Straunat is available online on spiritualjourneys.com or through the link on almeendiary.com. The explanation about it is so pertinent to our times because things are changing. Now remember that long time ago, Almeen had actually stated that the eternal ascension attitudes and qualities of love and praise and gratitude can never change. They can only shift to a higher process as we're going along. And through the release of Belvaspata Aravespi Straunat, that seems to be happening. And again, it's going to require each one of us to live in the higher process and insights that brings into our lives, because that shift has definitely happened. The cosmic principles on which this comprehensive and sacred body of information is based are changing. The veils of illusion and the causes of emotional distress are thinning and dissolving. Separation consciousness is yielding its place on center stage to the inclusiveness of the oneness of all beings. The ramification is that in practicing this form of Belvaspata, which is designed to remove the mental and emotional illusions that are the root of pain, fear, anger, and protectiveness, we are aided by the cosmos. This Belvaspata is a healing modality for this moment. In its attempt to control life, mind has erected 72 illusions of separation and form. Perception yields emotion and vice versa. There are, as a consequence 72 emotion-based illusions. The total number of illusions or separations that lie like fractures through the psyche is therefore 144. Both the masculine and feminine aspects then coming together. So have you downloaded it yet? Because I have, and looking forward to working with it in the coming week. Absolutely necessary where we need to go. Right, so Almeen says that these things and processes are changing. She's just released a beautiful audio as well on Almeen Diary about the deeper meaning of love, praise and gratitude in Belvaspata. She's talking about, it's contrasting the concept of life as a reflection, which is growth through opposition, with that of life as an expression, growth through inspiration. Almeen will share how she finally uncovered the deeper meanings of these sigils of love, of praise and gratitude in Belvaspata healing. So we've had it since 2008. We're now going through some massive shifts, even within that beautiful modality, which means the angelic orders have all shifted, as we well know, if you've been listening to the show and following Almeen's journey there. Let's listen to the deeper meaning of love, praise, and gratitude. I'll see you in a while.
The world around you is a mirror, so the world around you is a backwards reflection, which means it's antagonistic. Creating from the attitudes of love, praise, and gratitude changes life
and
from a reflection
the humor of the moment
an expression.
That we have to just work
this
with
is important information because we have said,
the whole system has
how do you make life not a life of opposition?
We were going to play this audio from Almeen about the deeper meaning of love, praise and gratitude.
The way
Remember,
we have
she says that in a computer program, if you
introduce
something that
judgment.
is foreign, it freezes.
But this is giving
here we go. We froze it up with lots of audio to go, and nothing going to be happening except my voice. So now we have a choice to either cut the show right now, and hopefully it will publish itself, or we are going to just continue talking. But we've got some more, so let's work with it.
Praise and gratitude.
Yeah, anyway.
The deeper
we're seeing a whole lot
insight of
things
this
going on the
is
screen here.
that
Nick is trying
as
very,
we
very
do
hard,
Belvas
but at the time,
B'tah
hopefully it will
on
unfreeze itself
others,
in time for us to play
we
that.
are literally
Otherwise
trying
it's
to
going happen
heal
next week.
a backwards
Let's listen to,
image.
I'm going to just read out
In
a
other
post
words,
by Jeanette
the
Marie
person on the table
about the aspect of Libra,
backwards to
September the
us.
23rd to October
So
23rd,
how
astrological reading.
does our healing
I don't really
not
follow these things
affect them
much anymore, but when I was reading it
adversely?
Earlier and I saw the post,
For
it was fascinating
all
for
these
me
years,
because it fitted
when
so
I
perfectly
received
in with
Belvas
where I'm
B'tah,
at in my own life. And I
took
just
it
look at
as a
my process
dictation.
and I go
sat down
that
and
everybody
wrote
else is having this
right
process,
through the
and I
night.
just try and
And
let that
then
be and try and work with
subsequent
it. And
pieces
listen to
of
what
the
she has
protocol
posted here
came in
about
during
this
the
time
following
frame of
years.
Libra that we're in.
But when I wrote
She
down
writes there,
that love,
with so
praise,
much
and
uncertainty in the
gratitude
ethers
has to be
recently,
present
it has been hard to know
before
where to
and
direct your
after
energy. It
the
lingers a bit
person
more for
that
the
you're
next few
healing.
days with your ruler
You always
Venus
end with
in
love,
Virgo
praise, and
in
gratitude
your house of the
after
unknown
completing
opposing
your
Neptune
healing.
in Pisces.
I
That's
have
how
never known why.
it can feel like being in the
I
dark
only knew
or
that is the
experiencing
way
an unsettling
it has
fear
to
of the
be.
unknown.
This is the
Mercury and
first
Mars
time
have also been in the
that it
sector,
is
but
telling
both of
us
their
why we
positions
use
change for
love,
the positive
praise,
this coming
and
week.
gratitude.
Mercury enters your sign on
healings.
February, September the 29th.
Because as
helping
an
you experience
opposite
movements in
to
your outreach,
any
serving
being
to
in
open
your
significant
environment,
doors.
your
Also,
healing
Mars aligns with
could
your
be the
older brother
opposite
Pluto
of what they
this
need.
weekend in emotionally grounding ways,
Except
carrying an
that this
undercurrent
piece of
that your soul is
information
true to
has said
course.
that
This
the
combination
attitudes
is
of love,
exceptionally
praise,
well-timed,
and
as
gratitude
Pluto, the
changes
planet of
life
empowerment,
from a
stations
reflection
direct in
to
Capricorn
an
after
expression.
months on hiatus.
This is a way
So
of
find
saying
a way to dive more
that
deeply into your
whatever is your
emotional
intended
center,
healing
and because of the strength
will
and inner
happen
vibration,
as it's
you'll be
intended.
turning heads.
Because something that expresses what you are. It doesn't express the opposite. So during the healing and during the delivery of those sigils by the angels as blessings into their fields, they function like an expression. In other words, they are the right way round for that person. Now, that is actually so brilliant. I could not have imagined that that was the purpose of love, praise, and gratitude.
Hi everyone, it's Paul. I'm back again. We're definitely having some technical difficulties. The whole system is frozen up. We don't know if it's the program that we are running from or if it's our own internal computer. There I was reading out some process, and then at the same time we were also playing an audio. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say goodbye right now and switch off the system, and hopefully it publishes. It is just what it is. It has happened now and again on the show. Nothing more we can really do about it. But then what we'll do is next week, we'll just pick up from where we left off and we'll talk about the deeper meaning of love. Perhaps it just needs a few days for it to settle in and work through. And in the meantime, we'll try and investigate what that issue is. But from here, the team, Belvas B'tah Healing South Africa, we'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for understanding. These processes happen. We need to just work through them all bit by bit. What's been very interesting is that I've had a particular audio clip that I've been wanting to share for the last 5 or 6 weeks. I had it all lined up for tonight's show. I said to Nicola, load this up. There it goes. Very much about frequency and processes, and yet again, not able to play it. And every single week, there's something that goes on that we can't actually play that particular track. So, yeah, it is what it is. That's the saying of the day for me. Nothing more we can do. So I'm just going to say goodbye and say thank you for listening. Remember that the frequencies, the eternal ascension attitudes of love, praise, gratitude have shifted, and we need to adapt to those processes and bring them forward in a much different way, not what we previously used to do. So we're going to just switch the whole system off now. Hopefully it will publish. But if you've been listening live to it, thank you for joining. And hopefully it publishes. If it doesn't, we don't have a podcast for this week. But it is what it is. And let's live in that particular moment. From Nico and myself, and the cosmos as it freezes or unfreezes. Goodbye.